Hello, my name is Barbara Beech, and I'm a member of the Friends of the Ames Free Library. And I'm here today to introduce you to two people who have done much work on the renovation and running of this beautiful library that we have in our town of Easton. Madeline Miele Holt is the library director, and welcome.
Barbara.
Good
Thank
to see you.
Yeah, as always.
And Donna Richman is the president of the Board of Library Directors, and she has served on the board on various committees since 1985. And you've been the director, Madeline, since recently?
2007, and I've been at the library since 1998. I was assistant
good.
director most of that time.
Right.
So my heart and soul is with the project, as Donna is. And
Yes, and it's been just a wonderful project for the library and for the people of this town. And Donna, I'd like to ask you about the how you came about to understand the needs and the services that the people in Easton have come to expect.
Well, I think, as Hazel talked a little bit, I think earlier about the formation of the board and how that came about, I don't know if she mentioned it. The library until the mid-70s, the Ames Free Library, was completely supported by the original Oliver Ames endowment. The town didn't have any participation in the funding or the operation of the library. And in the 70s, it became clear that in order for the library to qualify for some state aid grants to libraries, that the town was going to have to become a participant in the support of the library. So the then board and the then Board of Selectmen started a dialogue on how to accomplish that, and the town started to contribute to the funding of the library, originally in a very small way. I think that the proceeds from the dog licenses were committed to the library, and that sounds strange now, but it was a common practice in those days. And over the years, as the study group became a board and the relationship with the town became closer, the efforts of the library board and the then town administration increased the town's involvement greatly. And there was a huge growth in the level of support that the town offered the library during the 80s. And that really culminated in the opening of the Southeastern branch, which made the town really a real partner in the library services, and that offered some services that couldn't be offered by this building at the time, some increased parking and some handicap access to the library.
Well, that was opening a branch in Southeastern, I think was a really good decision, because as you say, it did enable a lot more people to have access to the library, but it was at best a temporary solution, don't you think? That you had to think of ways to make the main library more usable?
It was. It was always considered to be a temporary solution, and the study and discussion of what to do here, I think, as everyone knows, went on for many, many years, and different projects were proposed. The scope of them varied greatly, and as time went on and it became clear that for many reasons a major addition to this building wasn't going to happen, then the board was able to use funds that had been committed to the improvement of this building, and with funds saved from the endowment to accomplish the renovation project that we see here now.
Let me jump in here a minute. Both you and Hazel have talked about the library was functioning in a certain way before the town got involved. I thought it might be worth just mentioning how the library was funded. Started with a grant from Oliver Ames, and that was about $50,000. A certain percentage of that was put aside for building the building. Building the building, and I think it was, I've forgotten the numbers, maybe you remember how much for the stocking of the
I think
the
it was
building.
about half and half.
About
I
half
think
and
it
half,
was
right.
about $25,000 for the building, if I remember correctly, and about $25,000 to buy the materials and then create the endowment.
Right, and then we're talking about 1875, 76, when they started doing, planning the building of the building. And so that money was put aside and added to by various members of the Ames family.
Right. But it supported the library
it
for
supported
almost
the
100
library
years
for-
without any other help.
Without any other help. And then the Fannie Holt Ames endowment came into the picture. Is that?
After the town became involved, in the 90s, I believe it was 96, we received the Fannie Holt Ames endowment. And Fannie Holt Ames had provided the children's room in 1931 in memory of her husband, William Hadwin Ames. And that was a major accomplishment, I'm sure, at the time. We can only imagine. I've always thought personally the idea at the time of almost doubling a library to provide a space for children. Those of us, as we remember older libraries that we grew up with in other places also, children's rooms were not certainly not equal to
Yeah.
what else went on in the library. Children weren't given that beautiful a space traditionally at that time. So that was an amazing gift. And then the bequest upon the death of her sister that came to the library to support that room in perpetuity, really.
And it's that money that generated the interest that provided the funding for the renovation. I think that's the part I wanted to clarify, because people often ask about that money.
Right.
So the money is held by banks and trust companies, and we get a certain amount of interest for the operation of the library, as well as over those years, the board was able to put aside the money that then became available for the renovation. Just think people are kind of interested in that. And before we go too far from children's services, I just wanted to mention to anybody who doesn't know that Barbara Beech also is a librarian and part of Easton's town library history.
That's
we,
right.
Yes,
we don't
that's
want
right.
to miss that, and perhaps we should have a separate interview about your reminiscences.
Well, I do have some very interesting stories about life in elementary and junior high school libraries, because I spent 31 years as a librarian in the system. And it's just so amazing, as anybody who's taught school or worked with children, when you see your children that you've worked with grow up and become successful adults, and they still remember you.
Yeah.
It's really quite a nice feeling, yes.
And certainly we all appreciated that Barbara and her peers were really working hard to provide services to that age group when this library, I think, was particularly challenged to do so. So it was a big piece of the effort.
Well, when I went to the junior high school, I was very interested in the fact that there were many projects that the kids had to do, and they needed resource and reference materials that a school library couldn't always provide. So I would come to the Ames free, and I would bring the assignment list that the teachers had given me and explain to the librarians, this is what your students are going to be coming in looking for. So we worked that out together, and I think that worked very well. I think it was very helpful to the kids and to the public library. And there was always that sense that there should be much cooperation between the two, and there still is, and I think
There's a
that's
great
a
deal of
wonderful thing.
cooperation.
I think
We
that's
have-
really nice.
And as I've said before, it is not always common for the public library and the school libraries in the United States to collaborate, and we do a pretty good job of keeping in touch with each other and figuring out what the kids need and welcoming them when they come in with their assignments, and we know we're more or less ready. If there are any teachers listening, actually, we've departed from our subject.
Yeah.
Please let your school librarians know what your assignments are so that they can let us know, so that we don't look blankly at the kids when they come in the library.
Right. You need to be a little prepared, and it's the way to help the kids do their work.
Right.
Yes, well, you were speaking about funding and the bequests and that type of thing, and I wanted to ask Donna about the funding. That's been pretty well covered for the renovation, but what about the funding for operating and the maintenance costs of the library? How does that work out?
The town contributes now, the town and the library share the burden of the challenge, the responsibility
word,
of the
challenge,
library
yes.
budget. And, but the building is owned by the library. So town funds are not spent on the building because the town does not own this building. So that's why the entire cost of the renovation and the restoration has been accomplished with private funds. But ongoing, certainly, we continue our partnership with the town. The operating budget of the library is shared by the town and the library. So the library contributes from the endowments, and the town contributes as they can each year. And now we have the wonderful support of the Friends of the Library, and the Friends have contributed museum passes, right, Madeline?
About 6 or 7 of them now.
A lot, and I think we look forward to a lot of things that in the past we would have considered extra to be coming from the efforts of this wonderful new Friends group. There will be, I think, I can confidently say we're going to see a renewed effort at fundraising, and that's going to continue to, it's going to have to continue to be a big part of our budget as we go forward, given the responsibilities of the town and the endowments.
We need to continually continue the campus plan. Bill Ames mentioned the fact that we bought, the library board bought the Queeset House and the beautiful cottage at 56 Main across the street. And along with the needs of this building, those two buildings need further work in order to be functioning as part of the campus. And also, as you were mentioning, the town participation, we should mention that the land that the parking lot is on, as well as the Queeset Gardens, is leased from the town. And we have the responsibility for maintaining it and making it function as part of the library campus, but that is town land.
So I think that it's, we're all in sort of a honeymoon period with our beautiful renovation here, but we know that success breeds more interest, that I think Madeline has, if not already, will soon tell us some numbers about how business has increased here. And if we want to be able to continue to meet these needs, we will need to use all 3 of these buildings, and we will need to make them adequate and accessible for the kinds of library programming that we think the future holds.
Well, I'd be happy to let you know what some of my favorite statistics are. We recently installed a people counter at the door, It's a little infrared light that blinks when someone goes through it. And we've been counting up to, I think on our busiest day so far, we've had 500 people, but average between 400 and 500 people a day, which is much larger number than in the past. We had between 200 and 300 at Barrow Street. So we're already seeing a lot more people. Circulation went up 42% in fiscal year '09. And I could go on because I get very excited that people are coming to our programs. We had quite a few wonderful programs, as did the Friends. I mean, in the hundreds of programs, and thousands of people are coming to the library now for programs.
Well, I think it's wonderful that people are appreciating the renovation and the wonderful staff that you have at this library. I have been very impressed by how capable and how helpful and friendly all of the people who work here are for us who want to find out things, and they're very, very helpful. And that's extremely important, I think. And it's also been really nice to be able to listen to you two ladies who know so much about the operation and the background of the library. And we really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
very
for-
welcome.
Thank you for sharing that about the staff. I can't say enough about them either.
Yes, yes, they really are terrific people.